Okay, I'm back. So sorry about that. Life happens on live video. Okay, so I was talking about sleep and why sleep is so important. So when you sleep, you know, you're doing a lot of repair in your body, but you're also affecting your body as far as your weight, as far as your digestion, and it's really, really important. So you fast during that time. And no one, in fact, like people talk about how much sleep you need, but no one says, and oh my God, you're not eating during that time, which I think is so funny because if you were to take that period of time and put it towards the day, people would freak out, right? Like, you're not eating for 8 hours. You're not eating for 10 hours. Like, that's not healthy. When in fact, true fasts are pretty healthy, and I'm going to tell you why. So, and the cool part about this is it links back to my other talk about why low calorie doesn't work and to try and get out of that mindset of that old image of you have to cut your calories to lose weight. So I have notes here just to make sure I cover all the good parts. So there are two major things that go on when you fast. So first is when you fast and you do not take in food, and by the way, food, don't get confused when I'm talking about fasting, you can have no calorie drinks. So you can have water, you can have black coffee. I'm drinking black coffee right now, actually during one of my fasting times. And my coffee has nutmeg in it to make it taste yummy. You can have bone broth with salt in it to get electrolytes and nutrients. But it's a 0 calorie, no added sugars, because even things like my beloved monk fruit, which I love monk fruit because it's 0 calorie, it doesn't spike your glucose, but it does spike your insulin. And insulin is the beast I told you before, which is the major contributor to halt losing weight, right? So the reason we want to stop insulin is because when insulin is low, you increase glucagon. And when you increase glucagon, you put your body at a state which they call autophagy. Autophagy just won a Nobel, hi Sean, prize for science because it does amazing things like anti-cancer stuff to your body. It helps your body do amazing things. So autophagy is one of those buzzwords, good morning, that you will hear, and people are all about, how do I get my body into autophagy? How do I achieve this? How can I, be the healthiest I can be? So part of that is the insulin thing. Fasting also stimulates growth hormone. And why is that important? Because growth hormone is what's going to repair all of your damaged cells. So when we say sleep is really important, part of the reason sleep is really important is because you go into a fasting state, you drop your insulin level, you create a little bit of autophagy, and you start repairing all the things that have gone wrong. Okay? So the other major thing that fasting does is by decreasing your insulin, it increases lipolysis. And lipolysis is basically just your fat cells breaking down. And your fat cells cannot break down in the presence of insulin. And I'm going to say that again. Your fat cells cannot break down in the process of insulin, which means what? Which means when you're on a low-calorie diet and you're eating, low-calorie, eating a lot is what they say. Eat 6 times a day and eat low-calorie. Well, you know what happens when that happens, right? You're putting anything over 30 calories, you spike your insulin, okay? When you spike your insulin, it tells your body not to go through lipolysis. So it says, hold on to your fat, okay? Increase your fat cells. Don't utilize your fat. Don't break down your fat, okay? So that's a big problem for all of us trying to lose weight, right? And I told you, even 0 calorie foods can spike insulin. It's not about just the blood glucose level. So These are the two major factors of fasting, why people love to fast. Hi, Constance. So I'm going to talk a little bit. I should go for one and then the other. So I'm going to talk about the first for weight loss. So why that lipolysis is really important and why we don't get it on just low calorie is, again, we want to tell our fat cells to break down. The other like weird thing about decrease in insulin is if you decrease your insulin, you also increase leptin, and leptin is the satiety hormone. It's the one that tells you that you are full, okay? So there are a couple of things that go on with fasting. Now, everybody fasts, like I said, but the problem is there are a couple of key things with fasting. Like first I told you, you have to have 0 calorie stuff, and you can't add anything to it. So none of those fancy sweeteners, I know it's really awful because I'm a coffee addict. So when they said, you can't put anything in your coffee, I was like, but you do what you got to do, right? Sometimes you have to make a sacrifice, and I guess I'll sacrifice that. So the longer you fast, the better it is for weight loss purposes, not because you're putting your body in starvation mode, but because you're starting a cycle where instead of burning glucose, you're burning fat. And because lipolysis happens, you're burning your stored fat, right? Because you're not imbibing fat. So keto, when I talked about keto, I talked about how that is a fat adapted diet. So you stop burning glucose and you start burning fat, and it's a high fat diet. But the problem is if you're eating keto, 18 hours a day, you're not giving your body a chance it's fat adapted and you probably will have less hunger, but you're not giving it a chance to break down your own fat and use, right? So fasting gives your body that ability. It gives it the power to say, hey, let's do some repair. We're not imbibing. I'm dropping the insulin. And that says to your body, okay, I'm not getting any insulin spikes. And it's been a while. So I think I should go and take some of the stored fat and start burning that. Okay. What happens and why that doesn't happen on low calorie. So I had this big fight with my husband again, because he is so stuck on that low calorie. Low calorie is what does it. When you eat low calorie, though, what happens is you're still spiking your insulin and you're not telling your body, take your stored fat. And that slows down your metabolism, because what your body does is says, okay, I'm eating a lot, but I'm not getting a lot of calories. So insulin is spiking, so I know I'm getting food, right? And I'm not getting a lot of calories like I used to get. So instead, I'm going to slow down everything and like the normal things that I do, breathing, sleeping, pumping your heart, all that stuff. And I'm just going to make that more efficient so that I don't have to use as much calories. So now all your base metabolic rate shifts, right? That does not happen during fasting. Now, I won't say it never happens during fasting, but we also fear fasting in this society. And I am not talking about, 30-day fast, although you can do 30-day fasts safely under a doctor's, supervision. I would never, ever say do that at home. In fact, I think even Dr. Jason Fung, I think he doesn't suggest more than a 36-hour fast on your own, because everybody's body's different and you should, it's all about health. So anyways, I just want to make sure that because of that situation, that is why it's really important for weight loss. And there was a couple of studies done. If you Google, I should get better at like keeping all my resources and like putting them in here so you can see if you're geeky like me. But if you Google, I think the doctor called it sweet spot. There's a sweet spot of fasting to which your body does this like huge response. And that sweet spot is between 18 and 24 hours. If you hit 18 to 24 hours in a fast, that's like the sweet spot where your body's like, sweet, I'm totally going to start burning all my fat. You see this super decrease in insulin, and your body kind of finally says, okay. Now, I'm just going to check my notes that I didn't say anything else. All right. So I think that's what I want to say about the weight loss and why fasting is happening with that. So most people who are using fasting as part of a way of life or eating, and for specifically for losing weight, are usually doing like 16-8 fast, 16 hour to 8. I am a big fan of 18-6. That's just because my body really does that very well and I'm not hungry. Again, I eat keto, so I have a lot of fat in my body and I'm pretty satiated with the fat and not hungry. If I were hungry, I'd change it up. I don't do it every day. Is that why people lose so much weight when they're sick for a week? Yeah, well, what happens, right? It's exactly what happens. They're not taking in insulin, they're having big breaks and they're resting. So it does amazing things for the immune system, right? Because what happens is autophagy actually starts healing the immune system and giving the immune system things. They're also burning more calories in their using that energy for immune system. And because the insulin is dropped, you can actually have lipolysis happen, which is that fat breakdown, which I would love to be in a state of lipolysis all the time. Please, body, please just use all those fat stores that I have. I have more than enough. And I think that is part of the frustration when you're obese or fat or overweight, right? You're like, why? I used to say to my husband actually all the time. So I'd be like, Brian, I don't understand why my body doesn't want to give up that weight, right? I'm eating a low calorie diet. So I know that I'm not giving my body like super amounts. Why is my body holding on this weight? Well, if I was eating around the clock, or if I'm a terrible sleeper, that's the other bad habit people get in. They're a terrible sleeper and they get up and they eat something in the middle of the night. Well, you just broke your fast. Or you have a glass, instead of having a glass of water, you had a glass of tea, iced tea, sweetened iced tea, or something sweet, right? Juice or something. Breaks your fast and you don't get that lipolysis. So it is part of what goes on when you're sick and you lose weight. Your body is in that state where it allows the fat breakdown. You're also probably burning more calories for the immune system. I love when people ask questions. It's so fun. I guess because like that's my ego builder for perhaps like I know some information that I can pass on, and I love doing that. Okay, this actually is great because that question leads to autophagy, and I wanted to get this right. So I again wrote down my notes because I'm a geek. So autophagy immediately turns off when you eat anything. Okay. If you have glucose, spike in your blood, insulin spike in your blood, also proteins can stop autophagy. And that's why people started looking at fasting for autophagy. And one of the great things about autophagy is the neuronal health. So the neurons in the brain start to repair themselves. And it's kind of, they have done these studies on autophagy and how the body heals. It's a great preventative for brain diseases, Alzheimer's and things of that nature. They've shown that autophagy is what actually helps protect against it. So when you're fasting for autophagy, there's not a lot of research right now. I mean, I'm sure now that somebody's won a Nobel Prize, they're going to do more and more and more. But the idea, again, is the same. And autophagy is even more, I guess I want to say finicky. So when you're fasting for weight loss, you can start even with like I said, a 16-hour fast. And that will put your body into lipolysis, right? Like you can break down fat at 16. The other part, and I think this is true of any diet, Jason Fung talks a lot about switching it up. So he never says like do 16-8 all the time. Like you can do 16-8 for a week or 16-8 every other day and then switch it up. Do a little bit of a longer fast. Don't deny your body anything. If you have a wedding, please enjoy your wedding and then go back the next day. And that's the other great thing. Don't fast before an event. So a lot of people are like, I know that I'm going to overeat on Thanksgiving or Christmas. Like I know there's going to be cookies or whatever, and I'm going to go off my diet, and I know I'm going to eat a lot. Instead of fasting before, you should fast after, so that your body, you give it that time to break down the fat, the stuff that's already built up. But going in and thinking that the fast is going to help you before usually just ends in overeating because then you're hungry and you start eating the things that spike your insulin. And I talked about this in keto. And when you spike your insulin, then you don't get your hunger cues that I'm full, right? You keep eating. I listened to this on one of the podcasts the Obesity Code has a podcast, and Megan Ramos, who works with Dr. Fung, said you can actually be smart about how you eat. And she was saying, if I know I'm going to eat the bad food, I just be careful of how I layer it in my stomach, because your digestion happens in how you feed your body, right? So there's no big mystery. It digests the food you ate in the order that you ate it. And your body, of course, responds differently because it's not about calories. Remember, all those calories are not equal. How we break down the food, which is the whole thing of keto. You can check my last talk about that. So she was saying, have some fat, then have protein, and then have your carbs, right? And if you layer that into your body, what happens is you automatically slow down your eating process, and you basically make it so that you'll probably eat less, because the satiety, when you eat a lot of fat, you're still getting the satiety signals. Whereas when you eat carbs, especially pure carbs, and you all know this, you have one cookie and then it's like, oh my God, now I'm starving and I could eat a bazillion other things. At least that happens with me. If you don't know that, then you're lucky. But for me, that happens all the time, right? I'm just going to have this one piece of chocolate and then forget it, because then I'm craving sweets and I'm super hungry and I'm like, why am I so hungry? Well, because I've told my body now that spike that insulin and you're hungry, eat, eat, eat. So that's what happens. All right. So I just want to say the other thing with, going back to where I said the growth hormone. So autophagy does work on that principle of I'm resting and I'm repairing. So at the same time that I'm resting with autophagy, I am repairing with the growth hormone. And so again, our body is like, I don't know how I didn't know this was biologist, but I took biochemistry and biology a long, long time ago. And then when I got pregnant, I was like, hormones are super crazy biology. Like, it's amazing what hormones do. And how did I not know that hormones did this in your body when you're talking about your way of eating, your digestion, your repair work? I don't know how I, missed out on that. If I went back to school, I totally would take like 17 classes in hormones, because I think that really is the key to why our bodies are so unique and how they all kind of work together. It's super interesting. So the thing I want to say about fasting for autophagy is that we're not clear at what point, like how long you have to fast for autophagy to happen. The sweet spot of insulin drop where you get lipolysis has been studied. Like I said, if you're doing at least 18 to 24 hours, and then it keeps decreasing. But there is studies on that. Autophagy is not studied yet, so that's something to look for. But we know that it happens. We know that there's major repair work. We know that it can be anti-cancer and preventative and kind of repair your body. So it's super important. I don't know if anyone has any other questions on fasting. I kind of wish Liz was on here, because I know she had questions on fasting. But you can check out, I think Jason Fung wrote another book like specifically on fasting, like the Guide to Fasting or something like that, which I haven't checked out yet. So if you check it out and it's awful, then don't blame me. And if it's good, you should message me or comment on here that it was good. But being aware that you should stop eating, and you might have heard experts tell you don't eat at night, don't eat after a certain time. And again, that is promoting fasting without saying fasting. But I also wanted to share this little piece of science. The reason that is true is because whether you are asleep or not. So somebody had asked me, does it matter if I'm fasting, what time I'm fasting? And there's no set answer. So of course I did my biology geeky research thing. There's no set answer on that because I don't think anyone has studied that per se. They usually say, well, just do it. But there is evidence that your body automatically has a circadian rhythm. Okay. And in that circadian rhythm, your organs have to have a certain time when they do their functions. So I think there's even a huge study on circadian rhythm. Like there's a circadian rhythm app, and they were using that data to study everybody's circadian rhythms and what happens. The sun is totally washing me out, but that's okay. I'll take sun. And I found this really interesting because there's a point in the night. So if you eat like after 8 p.m., well, you might still be awake, but your body might be going into their, quote, sleep mode where they're repairing and shutting down. So you're feeding your body at a point where your pancreas is like, no, sorry, I'm doing my regulatory thing. So I'm not going to respond well to that. And what happens with that? Well, if you're eating and your pancreas is like kind of on really low function, you're not producing insulin at the time you should be. And so then it backs up and you are actually increasing it takes more, right, to build up your insulin. And what that does is basically set your body up for insulin resistance. So I'm assuming your other organs also have a sweet spot, right, where the digestion just isn't as well. And that might be the signs of heartburn and other things that you feel. But there is something to be said about not eating late at night. So if you can shut that down, you're eating earlier and have a nice overnight fast, which again, that's what we used to eat. Like the old diet used to be eat 3 square meals a day. The reason again for 3 square meals a day is if you eat a meal, your insulin goes up, but then you have a little bit of a fast afterwards, which again, that drop in insulin helps. Insulin has to like reset itself, and it has to like get to a certain part. I'm drawing like a graph, right? So your insulin is low and it comes up and it spikes with things. And if you don't let your insulin drop here, right? 2 things happen. 1, you don't get that lipolysis for weight loss. And 2, you're setting your body up for insulin resistance because if you keep spiking it, so if I'm eating little meals throughout the day, I'm spiking. I'm never dropping my insulin level, which sets your body up, A, for no lipolysis, and B, no reset of your insulin, so insulin resistance, which can lead to diabetes, especially if you have markers for that in your family. Hi, Brandy. Hi, Megan. I didn't say hi to you guys. So there is something to be said about eating those meals and then having a long fast. And that is how the original diet went, right? The original, diet of most people was eat breakfast, bunch of space, eat lunch, bunch of space, eat dinner, have a long rest, go to bed early, and long rest until breakfast. And again, that was like the natural flow of keeping your insulin levels low and then use them, and then low and then use them. And I think part of what Dr. Fung talks about in the obesity code is we went away from that. We started saying to people, no, if you don't eat, you're going to drop your metabolism, which is not true. It's actually that little bit of eating can actually be, even if you're eating low calorie, again, remember, because you can have a no calorie food that spikes your insulin. So if you're on low calorie, I bet you're doing something to keep, your sweet tooth or your satiety, right? If you're low calorie, it's got to be something to keep you going. and those are spiking your insulin. So I'm only eating a little bit. I'm grazing throughout the day, but if you're only eating a little bit, your insulin is up, 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 up. It never drops. It never gets to reset, and that is like the danger that has a whole mess of implications. So I think that's what I have to say about fasting if no one has any other questions, except that it can be an amazing tool, that we all fast, and it is a normal part of the human biology. You know, our bodies are set up for fasting. It's good for our organs. It's good for brain health. I think you're going to see tons of studies come out soon because of autophagy and that breakthrough that, you know, we have the ability to repair ourselves. You have the ability to repair organs, and myelin sheaths and brain cells need to rewire, and all of that can happen, and it has to happen in a fasted state. So I think you're going to see a lot of research come up in the next few years about that. I would never say to anyone to fast, extended fast, you know, a normal intermittent fast, you know, that's 16 hours, 18 hours, even 20 hours. Some people eat, you know, go on a 20-hour fast. They have a 4-hour window, and so they eat one big meal a day, and that's just how they do it. So there are tons of groups out there, I think, that could help you. Lots of resources if that's something you're interested in. But I think it is really important to know that that's exactly what happens in your body. And I'm sharing with you because I never knew that. I feel like, geez, I wish I knew this. I don't know. When's the last, my whole life, I wish I knew that, right? I wish I knew the importance of, you know, not having that, you know, low calorie mentality and not getting frustrated over it. I wish I knew the power to reset your body, to reset your body set point, right? Your weight set point that your body has gotten comfortable at. I wish I knew all that, and it doesn't cost anything to do fasting. Fasting is not something that, you know, the little companies are going to want you to do because you're not. Fasting is water. Some tea companies, there are some tea companies, because you can have tea, not herbal teas that have sweet stuff. So not like fruity teas, but green tea is supposed to be amazing. I do have green tea some occasionally. Black teas are good. Black coffee. The little bit of caffeine they think makes a difference too in fasting. It helps with something or other, and I haven't looked that up. But all of those things can help your body and go on that natural path where you're decreasing your insulin and you're increasing your lipolysis and you're increasing your repair by increasing your growth hormone. So try it out. You know, give your body a week of where you religiously say, and it can be as easy as, I'm not going to snack, right? If you have your 3 meals a day and you're really good at sleep, maybe just doing that is enough. If you already are like, I usually do, I'm not a big snacker, you know, I only eat 2 to 3 meals a day anyways, but I do eat at 8 o'clock at night because I get home really late. That could be something to change, right? So instead, you know, give yourself a cutoff point. I'm not going to eat after 7 p.m. Mine is much earlier than that, I'll be completely honest, because I'm not hungry at the very end of the day. I'm usually hungry in the middle of the day. And that might just be my circadian rhythm, but I'm not hungry in the super early breakfast, and I'm not hungry like at the evening time. So that makes it easier for me. Hi, Jason. So look into that fasting, look into the resource. You can post on here or message me if you have questions on fasting or if you're interested in starting. I do not promote extended fasting, not because I think it's horrible, but I don't promote it without being under a doctor's care, because there are a lot of things that go on in your body. And if you're not in tune with your body, or if you have other issues, that they can all get exacerbated because, you know, everybody's body's different. But intermittent fasting, I think, is an amazing tool that everybody should know about and everyone should be aware of. And probably everyone should be doing. So if people are not, are eating up until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and then getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and going to work, and before they go to work, they have a coffee with cream and sugar, they're already cutting that ability of their body and really setting themselves up for some not great things to happen. So that's my live talk this week. If you have a live talk topic that you want me to talk about, let me know. If you want to learn more, have more resources about keto and intermittent fasting, I have a Facebook group that I can add you to. Just let me know. And in there, I'll talk more about fasting, little tidbits instead of this big long thing, and what I'm doing and how it's been going and all that kind of stuff. So I hope everyone has a fabulous day. It was super warm and rainy yesterday, and then today is much cooler, but at least the sun's out, so I'm not sure which I like better. So I hope you all have a fabulous day, and we'll talk to you soon.